I don't want to go to the dentist, but if I don't,
I know, really. It's the torture chair.
Brushing my teeth is not convenient, but if I don't.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSP, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin Compliance. How's it going, Donna?
It is going fantastic.
I expected no less.
We're cruising into the holidays, into the end of the year.
Yes, we are wrapping it up. So you got all your Christmas done?
Oh, I hadn't done anything.
See, I'm the guy that does Christmas shopping in November. So I'm done. By Black Friday, I'm just, catching the little things that I want to buy for me.
You got all those kids and stuff to worry about. All the nieces and nephews are older. They're all in that teenage college years kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They just want you to give them money.
Well, that's where mine are now. I mean, they all want money except for the youngest one. He wants some things. And one of the triplets, they want some things, but everybody else is like, just give me money. They're saving up for cars and, dates and all these other things that are crazy stuff.
They don't want you to participate in their lives that much.
Yeah. and I don't get presents anymore. It's always like, my wife and I will say, okay, what project do we want to do this year? And that's going to be part of our Christmas. So we'll probably be getting hardwood floors here after the first of the year.
Oh, great. So everybody, we're going to learn about hardwood floors with David next year.
Yeah.
What are we going to learn about today, though?
Today, let's see. Have you ever seen the Rocky and Bullwinkle show where they always do like, this episode is this or this? How they used to do that? That's kind of what we're doing today. So it's going to be healthcare data breach news or the Dark Overlord is still out there.
Yeah, we don't know what the title's going to be. You're right.
So it's going to be that. So, we had somebody comment a while back about how in the world do you guys find things to talk about, because there just doesn't seem to be that much out there to discuss, to which we both laugh. Because it's like, no, it's really kind of hard to figure out what not to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at any one time, I think I have at least 20 different things that we could consider to talk about.
Yeah. And on some days, if you talk to Donna, she will talk about all 20 at the same time.
Yeah,
but then she gets on her medication.
One of the guys we work with used to say that talking with Donna is feeling like you got a fire hose turned on you.
Yeah, it's like drinking from a hose pipe, fire hose pipe.
You ask me a question, I'm going to give you the information. I'm thorough.
Yeah, you are. So, most recently, we had some interesting news that happened this week from the world of Yahoo. So, if you have a Yahoo account, listen up. This affects you more than likely.
Yeah. 1 billion, period. That's billion like accounts compromised.
More hamburgers than McDonald's gave out.
Everybody should have heard about it. If they have a Yahoo account, they've gotten an email about it. If you don't remember if you have a Yahoo account, go see if you got one somewhere. I think I may have one somewhere. Not that it's probably been 15 years since I used it, but I got to go figure it out. The good news is I changed passwords enough that it wouldn't be something, that's hanging out there and have to worry about. But I still don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still go out there and either kill that account or make sure that it has a complex password. 15 years ago, I didn't have LastPass. So.
Right.
But everybody should do that. But that is just an indicator of what happens when these vendors are out there and they're not worried about security. And everybody's like, oh, what does it matter? It matters so much. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into a little bit of more of that in our discussions here.
Yep. So if you're sending, patient data and pictures and stuff like that on your Yahoo account,
mm-hmm. I have a password on it. It's secure.
Yeah, no. Shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, or maybe you're sending other things that are objectionable material. Might want to change that password. It could show up somewhere.
Yeah, it's too late. Probably it's been years. They just figured it out. It happened years ago. So.
Yeah. So another question or comment that we often hear is, there's not really that many breaches that happen. I mean, you hear the big guys and the big targets and the Anthem breaches and all these other ones, but all in all, there's not that many breaches happen. And
it's
of course,
the little guys. Nobody wants my stuff.
Yeah, but people like you and I that are in the know. In November, which a few weeks ago, there were 57 health data breaches that were reported. And I've always said that if you take the reported number, you could probably quadruple that easily to get an accurate number.
Well, we both know that sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get people to agree. They'll make you review something 15 times with them to be able to prove beyond a doubt that they absolutely have to report.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, if I have to report, I'm not spending any money to investigate. I actually had a doctor tell me that once.
Well, okay.
If I'm going to have to report, I'm not going to spend any money to investigate. I'm just going to go with it. And I'm thinking, well, OCR says if I have willful neglect, I'm not going to spend any time. I'm not going to spend any time negotiating or trying to figure out if you actually care, because clearly you don't. But what are you going to do? So, but in the big picture of things, yes, there are little breaches all the time.
Mm-hmm. There is. And if you want to know one place you can go and look at these things, you can go to databreaches.net.
Yes.
And look at that information. Or, even better, just tune in every Friday.
Yeah, I know.
We'll just tell you about them.
We'll give you at least as many as we can keep up with. But every morning I'm reading my Feedly that monitors all of the dark web stuff, the databreaches.net, the hacker news. I mean, it's a long list of things that I monitor, and that's why it's so easy for us to be able to have this news, because I why
do you emphasize that?
I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyway, anyhow, because I read this every day, so there's literally every day news of this kind, and that's why we're able to bring this information to you.
Absolutely.
So, there you have it. But bringing it back around to where we were is this whole concept of I'm too small is a huge problem. And one of the breaches that came out just recently is New Jersey Family Medicine Practice notifying 4,277 patients after a ransomware attack. And, usually we'll think about this ransomware stuff as it's just a program that got dropped off and it ran and nothing actually left and no one actually came in. But you got to, go through all of that. And we talked about that from the beginning back in earlier this year when all this ransomware really started happening. But you look at it today and they say that they estimate that 93% of spam type, phishing type emails have ransomware payloads now.
Nice.
Awesome. So this ransomware is happening all the time, and all of these times, we weren't sure about it. Everybody would say, well, it's not a breach. It's just ransomware. Nothing leaves. It's not a breach. Well, guess what?
Not so much.
This is what we're having to tell them, because their forensics team at this New Jersey, medical practice found out that the ransomware happened because someone was actually in their server and dropped it off and initiated it. So there is a breach if someone who doesn't belong is actually up in there. So they're all up in there. But according to databreaches.net, who works with, I can't remember who it is, But anyway, they do a monthly calculation of how many health data breaches there are every month. And November was the highest month yet, with 57 of them reported. And again, that's reported. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, there's that reporting thing.
So clearly, size doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. And we'll get to another small one in just a minute in our second half of the conversation. But so ransomware is not automatically not a breach. You've got to do the forensics. We know that now. We encourage that now. Don't make any assumptions. And also that you're not too small to matter. And we've said both of those over and over, but it never gets said enough, apparently, because it's not really making a dent in the number of people that say it back to us. So then the next item on my news list is one that'll make you happy to be able to tell, because it involves a Mac OS user update. And you're the one that, you're really big on trying to get that message across. And I don't disagree with it. I'm just not as passionate about it as you are.
Well, first of all, I like picking on Mac owners. So if you're a Mac person, I'll pick on you. And I have my reasons. It really has nothing to do with hating Macs. I have no
What, your ex-wife uses one or something?
No, I think she's still on a Commodore 64.
Okay.
No, it's just people... I always give people a hard time because they're following the crowd versus buying it for a purpose or a reason. So they can never tell me why they really went with a Mac other than, they thought it was the thing to do or it's trendy
Somebody
or whatever.
Somebody told me to do it.
Yeah, it's like, it's the trendy thing to do. It's just funny. So I pick on them because they can't really give me a reason why they chose that other than,
And that all came from a marketing campaign. I'm a Mac. I'm a PC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the young, trendy guy.
Right.
I'm the old dude in a suit with glasses.
I know it's brilliant. It really is. I mean, the Apple marketing is phenomenally brilliant, and that's really what it boils down to. But one of the things that I often hear about Mac is, I got a Mac because it cannot get infected. It's, you can't get viruses with a Mac. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, it's David again.
Oh my gosh, don't make me have to go through this. So
There's no absolutes in this business. None. There's no absolutes. None. There's only better than others at avoiding them. And you're right, David. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Well, the thing about it is, the funny part is that the rise in popularity of the Mac OS and all that has caused the nefarious community. The hackers are now paying more attention to using that platform because there are more people on it. So the funny thing is that they have shot themselves in the foot by being more available now.
Well, it makes it worth their time to sit there and work at breaking into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is under there are fewer things that are happening to it, but there are regular issues that you need to update. And in fact, there's another one that I was just reading this morning that you need to make sure you have the security update. And I forgot to share this with you, David. You'll love it. The security update for Mac OS 10. Blah, blah, blah. I don't remember which one it is. Look it up. But they have a device that you can plug into the Thunderbolt port on any Mac. And if you can do that and they don't have this update, then within 30 seconds, you can crack the encryption.
Nice.
I know. You got to be like right there with the device. The device has to be on. It can't be powered down. If it's powered down, it won't work. But if it's powered on and you don't have this update and you're right there with it and you plug this thing in, you have to have the thing, plug that thing in. Within 30 seconds, you've cracked the encryption. So I'm sure the FBI is happy about it, but
yeah, and I think I've seen something similar to that. That was like a little USB device that you could buy, and plug it into any computer and you pretty much can wipe any password or get into it.
Well, this only works on the Thunderbolt port. But anyway, the important point is there are problems in Macs just like anything else. And there are fewer, because of things, there are fewer things that we can do to protect Macs because they just don't have the extensive security applications because they've been able to sit there in their little glass palace, as we say. But the important reason I brought it up today is there was a 5-year-old, it's been there for 5 years, in Skype, a backdoor that'll allow them to watch all your conversations, listen to all your conversations, get everything.
Nice.
And the reason that's important is I know there are a lot of therapists or a lot of people that are trying to, dip their toe into telemedicine that are using Skype. And if you're using Skype on Mac OS X, you need to make sure you get it all updated and know that you have a potential for exposure of conversations you've had in the past that are supposed to be protected. And we're not going into whether or not you should be using Skype or what you should use on telemedicine. That's a whole nother discussion.
But I believe patching is covered in the security rule.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. And then the last little piece of news before we get into the TDO is this is the other thing that I now get are the alerts from US CERT, which is, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security and all that kind of stuff.
People who used to look for you.
Yeah, I know. We're friends now. But no, we're not. They're sending out an alert about a crimeware as a service infrastructure. So the interesting thing is, and this is not the first one. We've also run into one actually as part of a ransomware case that we're working on. But they actually set up these platforms that are, software as a service, like all of us use. We use Trello and we use cloud apps and Google and Microsoft and all of that stuff. Software as a service. So now the criminals are doing the same thing. So they'll set up the platform, they'll host the malware and the command and control centers and all that, and you basically just lease the time to manage the attacks, and they get a cut of it, and you get a cut of it. And you bring in your own list you've stolen or whatever. So the hackers are now doing their own little software as a service bit.
How about that?
And they found one that's called Avalanche. And they say it's a large global network hosting infrastructure for cybercriminals. And it's specifically doing phishing and malware distribution, as well as money mule schemes, which is a whole nother thing we're not going to go through. But the malware may have allowed criminals unauthorized remote access to the infected computers. Infected systems could have been used to conduct distributed denial of service attacks as well, which is what we always talk about. Your computer doesn't have anything. It's a computer. It has something. And it could be used to attack others.
Yeah. If nothing else, it's got processing power that they want.
That's what I mean. They can just turn around and use that processing power to attack other people. And the new ransomware thing that came out, the wicked one we talked about, where you can either pay to get your data back, to get the key, or you can agree to let them attack people using your computer and get your data back for free.
But people are going to do that.
I know. It's just wicked.
It is. Oh my gosh. It's like, okay, we're holding a gun to your head, but if you give us somebody else to shoot, we'll let you go.
I know. That's it.
Wow.
So that. Here are the recommendations for pretty much all of those problems. Okay. Keep your operating system and application software up to date. So that addresses the Skype issue. That addresses some of the security issues that allowed the hacker into the sites. Use anti-malware tools. Use and maintain antivirus software. You know what? All of those, part of the HIPAA security rule. Change your passwords. Part of the HIPAA security rule.
But it's not convenient.
Avoid clicking links in email. Well, that would be security awareness training, which is
Part of the security rule.
Thank you. So, yes, if you just do HIPAA, it helps all the way around. And all of those recommendations are tied to, well, the list is tied to the CERT announcement, which has nothing to do with healthcare, but everything in it that they're telling you to do is part of the HIPAA security rule. So now we brought it all back around to HIPAA.
Good job.
Bam. But the last big thing, was kind of the last, is the Dark Overlord, which we've been talking about since, July?
Yeah, he still hadn't called for an interview, so I don't know what's up.
Or they.
She hasn't called for an interview.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people think it's a group. It's a collective.
It could be.
Yeah.
They're out of Georgia, whoever they are, because they hate Georgia. I'm thinking that maybe.
Now, the first one we're going to talk about is in New York. It's right in Manhattan. So these are just some of the last bits of activity that I wanted to cover with it because, some of it rolls back into in the back door in Georgia. The tweet on October 11th said another one bites the dust, this time anesthetic dentistry located in the state of New York. Press release here and links to, which is interesting, the Dark Overlord now does a press release.
That's pretty cool.
And their press release is in Pastebin, so you can read it. And as we've recently had the pleasure of entertaining the company of an upscale dentistry in the Manhattan area of New York. After pillaging them and acquiring 3.5K, so roughly 3,500 patient records, unlike previous copycats. So they're pointing out it's copycats of TDO. We know that isn't a lot compared to our previous feats, but we've decided to bring this breach to light due to the way we've been treated by our target, which I love. Because they showed basically F off, fudge off, a tweet that came from the dentistry they posted a picture of it where the dentistry group basically said F off. And so that made them, because you've treated me poorly, we're doing a press release. And then, of course, it's being the good-natured people we are, we contacted the dentistry after we had a copy of their records safely in our possession. So, they're always talking about what honest hackers
they're honest
they are.
Hackers, yeah, absolutely.
And they proposed a course of action that would accommodate both of us. I love the way they say things. However, for reasons unknown, they suddenly became hostile towards us and using very colorful language. Foolishly declined, and they pictured on Twitter, that's what they're referencing as the F off. However, after much contemplation, we've come to the conclusion that they may not be the most situationally aware people.
You have to say this for them. They have pretty good writing skills. They really do.
I know. They clearly know English.
Yeah, so they're not Russian hackers.
They're not taking it into and dumping it into a translator. So it's someone who has a really good command of the English language.
They're from the University of Georgia.
They
Bulldogs.
Really? Everybody will tell you don't get a good. That's a whole nother story. But we understand that they'll require a gentle nudge or two, which is why we'll still be giving them a choice. And this is the first real misspelling because it's CHOISE.
Mm-hmm.
Choice to cooperate with us or suffer a stabbing pain inflicted by yours truly. A proof that what we say is true, you'll find below a link to sample of the data. So they've released their patients, although it's been removed off of Pastebin now. Their records show that some patients have HIV, AIDS, herpes simplex, or venereal disease, and much, much more. And we will release more if you do not cooperate. As always, we are open to communication and discussion with all of our valued business partners. And then it says, it gives you a link. Until next time, the Dark Overlord, Professional Adversary, World Wide Web, LLC. So,
LLC? Really?
Yeah, it says World Wide Web, LLC.
Okay.
So to me, I'm like, I can't resist the humor that they share. While I know that they say they're good natured people, it's still criminal activity, and you're still, risking people's livelihood, their lives, a lot of things when you're messing with this data. So certainly not something that we endorse in any way, but we do appreciate their sense of humor. We just wish they'd use it more like we do. So, but again, here is another example. You're not too small.
Maybe we can change them to the hackers formerly known as TDO.
I know. It's just a symbol. That was on October 11th, and then on October, and apparently these folks have had to announce their breach. And then on October 13th, they TDO tweets, peaches are known to have skin that is very delicate and easily bruised. And then it's their release about Peachtree Orthopedics, which we talked about. That's another one here in Georgia that, we had Athens Orthopedic. That was the first one we were first talking about. We talked about the fact that they interviewed them, and they said that they, at the time, back then, they had another group with Atlanta professional athletes. Well, Peachtree Orthopedic, boom, got a lot of them. We're talking Braves, Hawks, Falcons. There's a lot of those folks in there. So peaches are known to have skin that is very delicate and easily bruised. So sure enough, Peachtree Orthopedics, they send out letters to all of their patients back in the fall. And it was big news here in Atlanta, because that means between Athens and Peachtree Orthopedic, it looked like there was roughly 1 million patients. It was like 300 and some odd thousand at Athens and 500,000 over here. Well, the numbers come out at like 531,000 from Peachtree Orthopedics. And then on December 12th, we get another strange tweet, because, the Dark Overlord tweets these really weird statements. And then a little while later, you'll get some other release. And the tweet on December 12th was, existence is a series of footnotes to a vast, obscure, unfinished masterpiece.
Okay.
Vast, obscure, unfinished. So, we keep talking about, there are a lot of practices involved in this. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch. And, we could tell based on the information. I mean, the first post, there was like 6 or 7. I bet there's, I think at one point, there's like, I saw that they suspected like 18 related to them.
Wow.
Or maybe they said it, but it's large numbers of practices that this particular hacker. But interestingly enough, in the midst of all the healthcare thing, they also attacked Gorilla Glue. And I know, Gorilla Glue. They're mixed in there somehow. But the very next day, after TDO tweets that weird one, on December 13th this week, I'm on my way to my monthly networking event known as Bourbon Club. And
look, a trip to the bar is not a networking event.
Hey, we have some awesome business that gets conducted in Bourbon Club. Let me tell you, it's awesome. But I'm on my way there and in the Uber car, because I am a responsible and networking individual. And I get a tweet about a news story that's coming on a local news station. They have done an investigative report on the Peachtree Orthopedics breach. Because, the only reports are, here's the letter, and they've made this announcement, and it's the details in the letter. So a local news story comes out, and we'll have a link to it. You can watch it. And they actually mention the Dark Overlord and show the Twitter thing about peaches and all of that stuff. And, okay, so there's some things in there that, they really need to get information. We should send them our podcast. In fact, you know what? We'll try to send them a link to our podcast so they can hear this. But so they interviewed a guy who was included. I don't know how they pick the patients that are included in it. He just knows he signs the thing, and I'm giving him all this information, and how can this happen, and that kind of stuff. And okay, and then they had experts tell us that medical records, that while credit cards are worth pennies, medical records can cost as much as $5 each. It's more than that.
Yeah.
So somebody just showed them something, but I've seen it as low as that. And granted, there's been an influx of records with this TDO. So supply and demand drove the price down. But I've seen it much higher than that as well, and heard reports of it into $200, depending on the quality of the data. And then they also mentioned, this was the largest breach in Georgia this year. And it says, there were 300 medical breaches this year, according to federal reports. And I'm like, oh, you don't get that. That's just the ones over 500.
Right.
So, there's so much more to this investigative report that you could be doing. And, I'm sure Athens Orthopedic is thrilled that it only is talking about Peachtree Orthopedics. It's not us. Yay. And they end it talking with the feds talking about it's easy to mask your activity. It's not like, which we've talked about many times, security's not convenient. You wouldn't have house keys and car keys and all that stuff if security was convenient.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't realize is if somebody breaks into your house, they often leave evidence that you can just say, well, there's a broken window. This is how they got in. Oh, look, a footprint, a fingerprint. It's on video, something. It's a lot harder to track that stuff on a computer.
Yep.
So clearly they make that point. And then they end with the reporters at the desk, and they're talking about, and this is from all walks of life. It's 531,000 patients. Of course it is. And, they're talking about it has, the professional athletes, and it even includes FBI agents. And I'm sure it includes some cybersecurity specialists.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm not in there, but I'm sure it does. So
interesting stuff.
So there is the Dark Overlords update, and they're not done yet unless somebody catches them or gets close to, and they're continuing. There's a tweet from this week. So December 12th, tweet. December 13th, investigative report. So there's going to be more. And I think that people who, there's other information that we have that's not public information. So we're just tracking some stuff. I think that it's going to come out where a lot of them are blaming Quest. The Quest
Diagnostics.
It's not Quest Diagnostics. It's not the lab. It's a document management company.
Okay.
And they're blaming that vendor who did have a breach that included some admin stuff. And that vendor's kind of been in this loop. But I'm gonna go out there and say, based on information that I'm getting and that we've thought from the beginning, that they mentioned TDO mentioned in our remote desktop protocol 0-day that they were using to get in, and I'm gonna bet that there was actual breach of individuals at the practice, and they're gonna get to blame the vendors. But we'll see if it comes out. But based on the information I'm getting, it's very likely the case that it wasn't the vendor, or the vendor wasn't the only way in.
Right.
So close it all up. We're going to cover predictions for next year, and they don't sound good. So clearly it's time. If you haven't been paying attention to us for the year and a half we've been doing this, it's really time. It's really time. Because and the reports that come out, because they said the Poneman study, which we covered in another podcast, said that they estimated that data breaches were costing the medical industry $6.2 billion per year.
Wow.
Okay, that was 2015's data. So this year's report covered through 2015. Juniper Research says that by 2019, okay, 2019. It says that there will be globally data breaches costing $2.1 trillion globally.
Wow.
So that's 4 times the global cost of 2015. Okay, so that's across all industries. So if you say 2015 was $6.2 billion for healthcare, then 4 times that in 2019. So to tell me now that it's cheap, I can't do these protections. It's security is inconvenient. I don't want to pay for a new computer. Windows XP is working fine. I don't want to get a subscription to antivirus. I mean, these are basic computer security things people aren't doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pay for that $300 desktop computer with an up-to-date antivirus. I don't want to do that. Well, think about what it's going to be when it's, $28-29 billion in 1 year that people have lost.
I don't want to go to the dentist, but if I don't.
I know, really. It's the torture chair.
Brushing my teeth is not convenient, but if I don't.
You're not shunned by as many people when you don't do your computer as you are when you don't brush your teeth, though, David.
Well, that could be true. Maybe I should start telling clients, your computers stink.
Well, it's like doctors who get upset with their patients for not doing things they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who have been known to have vices. Doctors they often frown upon it.
Mm-hmm.
And, they get frustrated with people for not doing it. Well, I told you, and this is bad for you. Hello, welcome to our world.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've used that. I've used that analogy a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it changes things, but they get it.
Well, maybe. Do they get it when the report said that you're leaving a technological gaping wound to be utilized by anybody who chooses to do it? You're just basically dumping bacteria into that wound every day you turn on a computer that's not properly secured.
Yeah, but it all goes back to what I call the "it won't happen to me" syndrome.
I think you're right. It won't happen to me.
Yep. So what will happen to you, though, is we'll close the podcast out and you'll join us again next week.
Please do. Go. We need some more. We've lost the momentum we were getting on our reviews. And you can review us on Stitcher. You can review us on whatever method that you use to listen to the show. Cool.
Oh, and I want to mention too that I stumbled across a podcast playing platform. Say that 3 times fast. I stumbled across a podcast playing platform that I thought was pretty cool, and it's called Castbox. So it's CASTBOX.FM, and there are Android and iOS apps for that, as well as I think there's an Amazon app for it. But the cool thing is it's a very, very nice player, and I don't know what most people are using, but sometimes people ask us, well, what's a good podcast player to use? But I like it. I've used it. It works really well, and you can even play the podcast right on your computer from the Castbox application from their site. So check that out. So if you want to play a podcast, maybe you're sitting at work and you don't have access to your phone or something like that, and you just want to pull up the podcast and listen to it. Not only can you do it from our website, but you can also do it from that Castbox. So pretty cool stuff.
And we're on there.
We is.
We're as many places as we can be. We did pop out on SoundCloud, but we haven't gotten enough traffic to pay for the hosting out there. Until we get a sponsor, if you'd like to sponsor, please do.
Yep.
Let us know.
Very good. So that's our show for today, folks. We'd like to thank you for listening. And of course, as Donna mentioned, if you'd like to be considered as a sponsor for the podcast, let us know. Reach out to us at contact@helpmewithhippa.com. You can review us on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere else in the world that you can review podcasts.
Give us those 5 stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
High five.
Share us out on your social media channel of choice. You can also visit us on the web at helpmewithhippa.com and leave a question right there on the front page, and we might use it in a future podcast episode. So remember, for Donna and myself, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. the show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.